Dawn crossbow builds, yeah.
Hello everyone, welcome to Grim Dawn Crossbow Builds, where all we talk about are crossbow builds for the game Grim Dawn. Today we are looking at a Mage Hunter. This is the combination of an Arcanist and an Inquisitor using the Runebinder set, which is a level 94 purple set featuring a crossbow and lots of elemental damage. I'll give you an overview of what we're doing with this build. We have two basic attack skills and some utility skills. On left click we have Runic Bolts, which is given to us by the crossbow, which gives us a heap of elemental damage and some extra attack speed. On right click we have Rune of Callistor, which is an elemental mine. The base version of the skill does physical and fire damage. We have converted the physical to lightning damage in this case, so we're doing all elemental damage. I'll do a dummy kill here for you. As we walk up, you can see the Aura of Censure does some pretty respectable chip damage, and you can already see that we're doing some pretty nice crits as well, so yellow, orange, and red numbers on the dummies. I will put up an Inquisitor Seal, activate Word of Renewal, and just place a mine underneath the dummy and fire away with Runic Bolts. See, we have a pretty good kill time there. Lots of damage. Let's talk about our skill point distribution. Our main skill tree is the Inquisitor. The set is designed for the Inquisitor, so it gives bonuses mainly to Rune of Callistor and to Rune of Hagrad. I prefer Rune of Callistor because the physical damage is very easy to convert to lightning damage using a Martin's Crest, which I'll show in the gear section. Rune of Hagrad does cold and piercing damage, and the piercing damage is a little bit harder to convert to cold. You need multiple items to do it, so that can be kind of annoying. But we have a single item to convert all the physical to lightning damage on Rune of Callistor. So we have a full elemental Rune of Callistor with extra projectiles and extra crit damage, which is super nice. Its modifier Ignition is maxed out. It's not quite hard capped in my case. It doesn't need to be. It's nice if it is. Gives you extra fire and burn damage and also a stun on mobs, which is nice. The rune skills are supported by artifact handling. For this build, it's really good to have this skill at a high level because it reduces the skill cooldown, gives you a lot of bonus crit damage, and modifies your total damage. So it really ups our DPS quite a bit using the rune. Our main aura is Aura of Censure for the elemental resistance reduction on enemies, and some other bonuses, some nice fire chip damage as well. Our utility skills are Inquisitor Seal and Word of Renewal. Most Inquisitors will take both of these skills. Word of Renewal we have soft capped. Inquisitor Seal is not quite hard capped, but almost there. Inquisitor Seal gets a very nice bonus from the Runebinder set, which is an extra 26% elemental resistance reduction to enemies. So it's going to be important to use this, especially considering that the Arcanist does not have any resistance reduction on its skill tree. On both of these utility skills, I have the mutators active, which decrease the cooldown and give a little more healing for Word of Renewal. This is a bonus for using a two-handed weapon. And the modifiers, I just have a token point in each one of them, which gets buffed a little bit by our gear. I'm using each of the elemental procs: Bursting Round, Chilling Rounds, and Storm Spread. And for these also I just have 1 point. It gets buffed by gear and it works pretty well. Our Inquisitor skills are supported by the Arcanist skill tree, and the main support skill here is Iskandra's Elemental Exchange. We have this whole line maxed out. The modifiers are soft capped. Iskandra's is a little bit overcapped. This gives a good elemental damage bonus to both Runic Bolts and the Rune of Callistor. It's especially nice on the Runic Bolts because the flat elemental damage applies to the auto attack. We have 1 point in Mirror of Eriactes for what I call a bug out button, something to use when you're taking too much damage. Gives you 3 free seconds to live and heal, which can be very valuable. We're also using Maven's Sphere of Protection for % damage absorption. Pretty much any Arcanist is going to take this skill, and 1 point in the modifier. Down here we have Inner Focus, which give us % Spirit and % OA bonuses. We have 1 point in Arcane Will for some extra defensive ability and damage, 1 point in Nullification to purge enemy auras, and 1 point in Mental Alacrity. This isn't strictly necessary, but it's nice to have some extra cast speed and energy. Let's talk about our devotions. So I'm going to go through our final constellations in clockwise order. First we have the Tortoise for defensive bonuses and the Turtle Shell proc, which I have bound to Aura of Censure. Lion mainly for yellow points and some minor bonuses. Toad for some minor bonuses and green and purple points. Rowan's Crown for green and purple points and also extra elemental damage and a nice proc, which is on our main skill, so Runic Bolts has Elemental Storm on it. Crab for more elemental damage and a defensive proc. Quill for elemental damage and green and purple points. Spider for some minor bonuses and green points. Blind Sage for some major elemental bonuses and crit damage bonuses, plus a proc which is bound to Storm Spread. Behemoth for some extra life and life regen. I have Giant's Blood bound to Iskandra's Elemental Exchange. Hydra for some offensive bonuses. The physical damage from the constellation is mostly converted into elemental damage by our weapon and weapon component. And finally we have the Kraken, which I use on most of my crossbow builds. It gives very good generic bonuses if you're using a two-handed weapon. Bonuses to all damage, cast speed, and attack speed, plus some health. I'll walk you through how I got there. I started taking a yellow point at the crossroads so I could take Tortoise and Lion, as well as Tsunami, which I had bound to a weapon component attack. Then I took a green point so I could take Spider, Quill, Toad, Rowan's Crown, and the Crab. From there I put a point in red so I could take Viper. I took Kraken up here. I took Hydra and Behemoth. And at that point I refunded my points in Tsunami and Viper, and I put them down here in Blind Sage for my final constellation. Let's talk about our gear. So we're using the Runebinder set. That's going to take most of our equipment slots. We have the crossbow, the hat, the amulet, shoulder guard, and chest armor, Runebinder's armor. So these all go together, give us a bunch of nice set bonuses. On the weapon, I have a Seal of Resonance component, which gives extra elemental damage, and a potent Malmoth's Soul. If you play this character, the Malmoth Resistance is going to be your best friend. They have the very best elemental augments, which I have on the weapon, and I also have on my rings and amulet. For the rings, I'm using Living Rings, which give +3 to Iskandra's Elemental Exchange. And you can also get good affixes. This one has flat fire damage and a chance to cast Fireball on attack. The other one is not quite as amazing, but it helps me cap my resistances, including stun resistance. The Mythical Dawn Shard Grip Gloves work really well for this build, giving us flat elemental damage, extra attack speed, and +3 to artifact handling, which helps our Rune of Callistor quite a bit. For the boots, I crafted some stone plate greaves, and after spending maybe 2 or 3 million iron, I got some very good ones. These are ordered stone plate greaves of Insight. The suffix is very nice, giving a proc that gives 156% extra elemental damage. For the metal, I'm using Moneybag Martin's metal, a Martin's crest. Stalwart gives extra defensive ability, which we do really need on this build. And of Squalls gives us another proc on attack, a lightning sphere. For the belt, we have Mythical Scales of Baranath, which are very, very good for this build. Extra crit damage, elemental damage, offensive ability, extra armor, 2 points to Inquisitor Seal, and 1 point to all Inquisitor skills. For the relic, we're using Ignifar's Combustion, flat elemental damage, some nice defensive ability, and also a proc that gives extra elemental resistance reduction to enemies. And for the legs, Mythical Fate Weaver's Leggings, which give extra elemental damage and some good defensive bonuses. 9% chance to avoid melee attacks, +2 to Maven's Sphere of Protection and to its modifier conversion, as well as a Prismatic Barrier proc. I would like to give an honorable mention here also to Chupacabra's Leggards, which work really well for this build and will allow you to hard cap Ignition if you use them. So those are a little bit better offensively probably, but I prefer the defensive ones. Let's talk about leveling this build. If you're a newer player, you're probably going to want to use Word of Pain, which is very good at lower levels. Also, our living rings give +3 to Word of Agony, one of the modifiers for Word of Pain. You can get very quickly from level 1 to 50 just using Word of Pain, so you might want to do that. It's very simple, very easy. If you're a more experienced player, you might want to do what I did, which is just play the same build from level 1 to 100. And you can start right at level 1 with Francis's gun. This is a monster infrequent that you can find in Lower Crossing, right outside of Devil's Crossing. It's the earliest place in the game to find an elemental damage weapon consistently. I'm on ultimate difficulty, so this is the level 70 version of the weapon, but if you start on normal, you'll get a level 1 version of the weapon. When you get to level 5, you can use one of the basic elemental weapon components: Searing Ember, Chilled Steel, or Cracked Lodestone, and that gives you an auto attack that you can use from level 5. When you get to level 20, you can pick up a Flesh Warped Incinerator. By the time you get to Homestead or a little beyond, you should be able to find one of these things. They drop kind of irregularly from Flesh Warped Flame Eyes, which are an ethereal enemy. It gives very nice bonuses to the Rune of Callistor, 4 skill points, skill cooldown reduction, extra projectile, and physical to fire conversion. If you use this at the same time as the Martin's Crest, that's totally fine. What's going to happen is half of the physical damage will become fire and half of it will become lightning. When you get to level 24, you can craft a Blessed Steel component, which gives you a nice auto attack with 350% main hand damage. It has a long cooldown, but you'll be doing your default attack when it's on cooldown, so it kind of works out. At level 40, you can get an Ugdenbog Arcane Weaver. We benefit from some of the special modifiers, which include over 1,000 elemental damage to Iskander's Elemental Exchange and 10% attack speed. Super nice. At level 66, if you get lucky or if you have one in your stash, you can find the normal version of Nar's Arcane Destroyer, which is another step up. And when you get to level 75, you can craft a Shard of Baranath, which gives you an auto attack very similar to Runic Bolts. So it's almost like the endgame build for levels 75 to 94. And then at 94, you can finally put the set on. I came up with a budget version of the build using all blues and greens, no purples, so I'll put a link to that in the description, and that can also give you an idea of other leveling gear that you can use, because there are normal versions of most of those items. Let's see how our hero does in the Shattered Realm.
The Shattered Realm spans eternity.
Which apparently spans
One
eternity.
Can spend a lifetime exploring even a small... How far shall...
boss room.